All right, so tell us a little bit about your hydrocephalus and the resulting conditions that you endured as a child.
So I was born, yes, with hydrocephalus, and at 3 weeks old, I had my first brain surgery. Ever since then, I live with what's called a VP shunt in the back of my head. It drains the cerebrospinal fluid and helps with the condition. I've been lucky enough to not really have any complications with hydrocephalus, but along the way, I have endured other medical conditions. First one being hypotonia. So when I was 18 months old, that was the first time I actually took my first steps. It took me a very long time to walk, and then from there, I had years and years of physical therapy. I wore feet braces to learn how to walk correctly. I used to walk on my tippy toes. I used to, when I was little, I used to have to get Botox on my feet, like shots of Botox, because my feet wouldn't go down. So that was very interesting for a little girl to have to go through. And then on top of all of that, I was diagnosed with a seizure disorder when I was 8 years old. Luckily, I've grown out of that. But let me tell you, out of every condition that I've had, I have to say the seizures were probably the scariest for me, at least, because it was always kind of like walking on eggshells. You never know when the next seizure was going to happen. And it was a long time. It was basically all of my childhood that I had the seizures, and then on top of all the MRI testings and everything for the hydrocephalus. So it was a big journey, long.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it was. It's yeah, no, for sure. You've endured like a lot of stuff, and where you are now, which we're obviously going to get into, is absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So as a child, despite having epilepsy or seizures and your hydrocephalus, what type of supports or therapies did you participate in?
So first of all, my parents were my biggest support system, and they still are today. They really went above and beyond to make sure that I had the best care. I had NYU doctors for my neurology and everything, and I went through years and years of physical therapy. My mom took me to every single physical therapy appointment, never missed a beat. And then my parents, on top of I had like 3 to 4 days a week of physical therapy, and on top of that, my parents really still made sure I was doing my exercises. And it's ironic because I love physical fitness now, but asked me if I loved physical therapy, and I hated it. I hated every minute of it. I have to say, this whole experience was really the three of us. I'm an only child, and me and my parents really got through it together.
That's amazing. So you did physical therapy, but was physical therapy the only thing that you partook in? So you obviously had your appointments at the
Right.
at NYU, neurologists.
So so physical therapy was the physical aspect of it. I had a lot of that, but I had a lot of testings all the time, like EEG testings to make sure the brain waves were good with the seizures. That was probably the most annoying thing in the world. It's when they glue a bunch of wires on your head and you have to sit there for like 3 days and do nothing. And as a little girl who wants to go out and play with her friends, that's the worst thing you can ask her to do. So that was one. A lot of MRIs, and MRIs were for me, they were like detrimental to me because I always had to stay still. I couldn't move, and it was just it wasn't fair for someone my age to be going through all that stuff. So just a lot of testing all the time. Always checking out with doctors, and just always physical therapy. I always say, like, New York City is the greatest city in the world, but for me, I always have those memories. So
right, growing up and being different than others is challenging, and going to therapy, playing soccer, doing sports, arts and crafts, it's not fun. I totally get it.
Yeah, it's difficult.
But you've come a far way. So
thank you. Yeah, so I'm very blessed.
So what was it like growing? How did your conditions affect you? Well, you talked about physically, but academically, socially, family life.
I was very lucky enough that the hydrocephalus didn't hinder me academically. It didn't make things hard for me to learn. However, due to all the missing of school with the doctor appointments and the testings and the surgeries, I missed a lot at one point. So it used to be hard for me to catch up, especially like in the early grammar school years. That was difficult. So that, for the academic part, that there was that. It was always hard for me to feel like I fit in, not just because I had all these issues, but because they were very hard to explain to a kid my age. You know, they weren't outwardly noticeable. There are a lot of other medical conditions out there that I feel young kids kind of understand, they grasp a little bit, but mine was very different. I have a scar on my stomach from the surgery, from the brain surgery. And I remember kids always used to be like, oh, why do you have a scar on your stomach if you have a brain problem? And it was just, for me, it was so hard to explain all the time, and I didn't want to explain, and I would get angry, and I shoved it out of my mind. For me, it was a very it was a tough situation.
It was a tough situation. It's never easy. I feel that when you experience this, but post high school, I mean, you kind of grew up in the New York City area, but post high school and you go off to college, that's really when people kind of come like full circle. When you have difference, everyone has their own set of differences, and
right.
But when you're a child, it's you don't really know what's going on. It can be difficult. So when you were born, your parents had been told by the doctors that you may be mentally disabled, unable to do things physically that other kids would be able to do. You wouldn't be able to accomplish your dreams and aspirations. Knowing this, like, were there times growing up that you felt like a failure?
So, like I said, my parents are my biggest support system, and I've never luckily felt like a failure because they have always made it a point to make me feel like such a winner. And they've always made me realize that no matter what I'm going through, I can achieve anything, My parents never victimized the situation ever. If you saw the three of us walking in the street or going to a family event, you would never know that we just spent a week with all that physical therapy or at a doctor's appointment hearing all this news. My parents were very positive all the time. So having that positivity like in our household really helped me to know that my dreams can be achievable.
That's wonderful. One of your biggest challenges growing up was your physical strength. You had very little physical strength. And so when was the moment that you decided that you wanted to start going to the gym and feel better physically and mentally?
So it's really funny. It all goes back to my sophomore year in high school, and it goes back to my mom as well. I will never forget, my parents taught this all the time. I was sitting in a health class after lunch when I would just finish my bag's Doritos and my big unhealthy sandwich. And I'm sitting in health class, and we had to watch this video about how like meats are processed. And I don't know what clicked in me, but I went home that day and I said to my parents, I said, Mom, Dad, throw out all the meat that we have in the fridge. I said, we need to get organic meat. You don't even know what's going on in the world. And I don't even know what, from that moment, I started a little like I started researching. And then at that point too, my mom started Weight Watchers, and I started seeing like her results. And at that point in my life, I was just getting off of the seizure medication. I was getting weaned off of it. And because of the seizure medication, I had gained a lot of weight. That was one of the things that came along with it. So I was ready, sophomore year, I went to an all-girls school. I wanted to look good. So I started, okay, Mom's on Weight Watchers. Like, maybe I can try it. So I did a little bit with her, and we did it together. Started losing some weight, and then she said, I know you don't like sports, because at that point I was really into singing. She said, I know you don't like sports, but maybe let's try and go to the gym together. So we went to the gym one day, and we just started out, on the treadmill. And after time and time being there, I was like, wow, this isn't a team sport. I don't have to compete against anybody but me. And I'm actually feeling strong for once. I'm not feeling like the girl that's being left behind. And that's how I always felt. I talk about a section in my book how I hated certain things in school or certain holidays because I would always feel like I'm just being the one that's left behind. Mm-hmm. And at that moment in the gym, I didn't feel left behind. I felt kind of like on top of the world. So I educated myself. That's what I do. When I get into something, I really like to educate myself. And from there, I just got into it more and more.
When did you know that you wanted to be a personal trainer and a sports nutritionist?
So I went off to college with the thought in my head that I was going to come out and be this big, successful mechanical engineer. And
okay.
Yes, that was what I went into college for at first. And as I was in college, I'm a very studious student. I love getting good grades. I study very hard. I take pride in my work. I do. But when I was in college, I started, like, instead of studying late at night, I would make sure to go to bed on time so that I could wake up and get my workout in. I would start writing down workouts and nutrition plans for myself. And instead of researching how to build a bridge, I was researching, what vitamins are good and things like that. And I started to see how my interests were really shifting. And so that's when I really got serious about thinking, oh, maybe this is for me. Maybe personal training is for me. And I was lucky. The gym I was working at the time was like, you know what, Sophia, we see you here all the time, and people ask us all the time for you to train them, but you can't because you're not certified. So please get certified and you can come work for us. So a lot of people saw my passion in the gym, and I think they really liked that, because I always say that the best thing you can see in a trainer is when the trainer works out and does what they're telling, everybody else to do. Because I don't think that when I think about myself being a personal trainer and nutritionist, I don't think of it as a job. I think of it as I'm just living out my passion, and I'm being lucky enough to help others.
Right. No, that's great. I mean, okay, so now you are a personal fitness fitness trainer, as well as a sports nutritionist. And so you have your own practice called SRG Fitness. So it's SRG Fitness, and it's in Yonkers. Yeah. And tell us a little bit about your wellness and fitness studio and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
So SRG Fitness obviously stands for my name, Sophia Rose Gigante, but I also made it stand for strength, resilience, and growth, because that's what I like to practice and what I like to preach. Now, when people ask me about my practice, when people ask me, oh, what do I get when I come train at SRG Fitness? I tell them, you're not just going to get a personal trainer. I consider myself a health coach. When you come to me, we cover all aspects of health and wellness. So if you come to me and you're having a bad day, we talk about anxiety. We get you through your anxiety. I'm not there to kill you in every workout. If that's what you want, you're coming and that's what you're going to get. But if you're coming just to, you want to walk up the stairs easier, you want to carry packages and not be out of breath, this is the place for you. Every part of life is covered at SRG Fitness. Health, wellness, overall well-being.
You're in your profession. How do you think society perceives health and fitness? Do you think it's underrated, or do you think it's about right? Do you think there should be more awareness on it?
I think that health and fitness needs to have more awareness on the overall benefits of it. I think that health and fitness right now, it's like an up and coming thing. People are really starting to educate themselves, but I still think that it's not like, whenever somebody has a physical or a condition or something. I feel like health and fitness isn't the go-to thing to try and help it still. And that's what I want. I want health and fitness to be the new medicine. Because I think that it has so many, I've seen it in all my clients, and I've seen it in my special needs clients. It is medicine. It does the body good, and it can be used as medicine. And I think that although it is popular and people want to stay in shape and be healthy, it's still not the number one thing that needs to be preached, that is preached, and it needs to be preached. So that's how I feel health and fitness. I want to see it grow in that sense. I want people to go towards that first before looking at all the negatives of their condition.
Yeah, absolutely. So in closing, what advice would you give to others who have hydrocephalus, but also other conditions, epilepsy, autism, have a disability or are struggling? What would be your words of wisdom?
So, okay. Like I said before, I made that promise to myself never to address it. And as a young person going through something, I understand you don't want to address it. And I don't think you should ever be forced to until you're ready. So my first part of advice is always just never force yourself to address anything. Always go at your own pace. Don't be afraid of your anxiety. It's okay to be anxious. You're going through so much. You need to let it out, cry, do whatever you need to do. Get through it first. Know that it's just a bump in the road, that literally anything is possible. It doesn't have to be fitness related. If you have cerebral palsy and you can't hold a pen correctly and you want to draw, you can still draw. Make it happen. You can do it. Don't let anything ever stop you. That's my biggest thing, and that's what I hope this book brings to everyone, and that's what I hope to preach my whole life.
It's amazing.